Imagine walking through a tomb untouched for centuries, where shadows whisper secrets and spirits guard the greatest conqueror of all time. Would you dare enter? Legends tell that when Alexander the Great died in Babylon, the world trembled. His empire stretched from the sands of Egypt to the mountains of India, yet no throne could contain his legacy, and no grave could hold his restless spirit. At first, it is said, his body was carried in a golden sarcophagus, escorted by soldiers whose armor glittered like fire beneath the sun. Great kings and priests argued over where he should rest: Macedonia, where his bloodline began, or Egypt, where the gods had once claimed him as their son. The chronicles whisper that his funeral cortege was ambushed, the sarcophagus stolen, redirected not by accident but by design. Some say Ptolemy himself claimed the body, entombing it in Alexandria, where pilgrims and emperors once gazed upon the conqueror who had become a guard in death. Others insist the tomb was hidden far away, sealed in secrecy, to prevent desecration or to guard the terrifying power that clung to his remains. For centuries, the tomb vanished into myth. Strabo spoke of it, travelers hinted at it, but slowly the desert sands swallowed its memory. Now, all that remained was scattered fragments, faded scrolls, cryptic maps, whispers of cursed expeditions that sought the conqueror's bones but never returned. It was said that Alexander's spirit would not rest until his tomb was found, and that those who dared search for it would walk the knife's edge between glory and doom. And so the legend endured, like a flame smoldering in the dark, waiting for bold hearts to follow its glow into the unknown. The year was 1924, when the whispers of Alexander's lost tomb once again ignited the hearts of scholars and dreamers. In the halls of Oxford, Professor Jonathan Carroway, a historian obsessed with ancient Macedonia, stumbled upon a weathered papyrus in a forgotten archive. Its ink had nearly vanished, but the faint lines revealed a cryptic diagram, a map not of lands, but of stars. Beneath the constellation Orion lay symbols that matched accounts of Alexandria's necropolis, yet others pointed far deeper into the Egyptian desert. Carroway's heart thundered. Could this be the trail so many had sought? He saw in it not only history, but destiny. The tomb of Alexander has been waiting, he whispered, as though afraid the silence might answer him. Within months, an expedition formed, Carroway at its helm, joined by Eleanor Ward, a daring archaeologist whose keen eyes missed nothing, and Captain Marcus Vane, a soldier-turned-explorer who had seen too many wars and now craved purpose in legend. Their venture was funded by a secretive patron in Cairo, a man who demanded anonymity but pressed into Carroway's palm a ring marked with the emblem of a lion, Alexander's eternal symbol. The air in Cairo buzzed with rumors as their ship docked. Merchants muttered warnings in the bazaars, old Bedouins shook their heads, and a blind seeress spat into the sand, declaring, the conqueror's spirit does not forgive trespass. Yet despite omens, the team pressed forward. By nightfall, their caravan of camels and guides pushed into the endless desert, stars burning above like watchful eyes. Each step forward carried them deeper into mystery, and closer to a secret sealed by centuries of silence, curse, and sand. The desert embraced them with a silence so vast it seemed almost alive. By day, the sun was merciless, burning the horizon into waves of gold and fire. By night, the sand turned silver beneath a vault of stars, the constellation Orion gleaming brightest, as if pointing the way. Yet within that silence, the expedition began to notice unsettling signs. On their third night, a sudden wind rose without warning. It howled across the dunes like 1,000 voices, whipping sand into their campfires and snuffing them out. The guides muttered nervously, crossing themselves against the evil eye. Eleanor, brushing sand from her journal, caught sight of something in the darkness, faint shapes dancing at the edge of the dunes, vanishing when she blinked. The next morning, one of the camels was found dead, its eyes wide with terror, though no wound marked its body. Marcus inspected it grimly. "No predator did this," he muttered. The beast was frightened to death. That evening, Carroway unrolled the papyrus by the glow of an oil lamp. The star map seemed to shimmer unnaturally, the ink almost shifting beneath the flame. He traced the lines with his trembling finger, noticing for the first time tiny markings between the stars, sigils, sharp and alien, like warnings carved by a hand that feared what it revealed. As the night deepened, Eleanor awoke to the sound of distant hoofbeats, though no rider could be seen. The air grew heavy, charged, as though unseen eyes watched from the endless sands. A single phrase whispered through her mind, though no lips spoke it: "He who disturbed the king shall join him." When dawn came, the desert lay quiet once more. Yet a shadow had settled over the expedition. Each step forward now felt less like discovery, and more like trespass into a realm where the past refused to stay buried. On the fifth day, the desert revealed its first secret. The caravan reached a valley where the dunes dipped into a hollow, and strange stones jutted out of the sand like broken teeth. Their surfaces were etched with hieroglyphs so worn they seemed older than Egypt itself. The guides refused to enter, halting at the ridge and muttering prayers. Marcus frowned but allowed them to remain behind, while Carroway and Eleanor pressed onward into the hollow. As the wind shifted, sand poured away from one of the stones, exposing a staircase leading down into the earth. The air that rushed upward was cool, tinged with the scent of age and dust, as though exhaled from a lung that had lain dormant for centuries. Torches were lit, their flames casting long, trembling shadows across the stairwell. The descent led into a vast chamber half buried by sand. Stone columns loomed in the darkness, carved in the likeness of lions and falcons, their eyes still sharp and watchful despite the weight of centuries. Along the walls, faded murals depicted scenes of conquest: a great king in armor, crowned with rays of the sun, riding into battle as enemies fled before him. Though the face was worn, its features were unmistakable: Alexander. Eleanor ran her fingers along the mural, awestruck. If this is truly his necropolis, then history has lied to us all. Yet something in the air unsettled Marcus. The silence was too perfect, the kind that crushed sound rather than simply holding it. In the far corner, a broken statue lay toppled, its head severed cleanly from its body, not by time, but by deliberate force. Carved beneath its base were words in both Greek and Egyptian: "He is not here. He is elsewhere. Follow the stars." Carroway's hand trembled as he traced the inscription. "A Dicker tomb," he whispered. "The true resting place lies deeper still." But as they turned to leave, the torches flickered violently. A low hum filled the chamber, resonating through the stone like a heartbeat. The explorers froze as grains of sand slid across the floor, spiraling toward the darkened stairway that led even further underground. The necropolis had not just been found, it was awakening. The hum that filled the necropolis grew louder as they descended the newly revealed stairway. The steps were worn smooth by time, and the walls pressed close, carved with spirals of Greek letters intertwined with Egyptian hieroglyphs. The strange fusion of cultures made Eleanor's skin prickle. This was no ordinary tomb, it was a bridge between worlds, just as Alexander had claimed himself to be. At the base of the stair, they entered a smaller chamber. A single stone door blocked the way forward, its surface inlaid with lapis and gold that still shimmered faintly in the flickering torchlight. Across it stretched an inscription in Greek, "Let none pass who seek glory. Only those who carry reverence may tread here." Marcus stepped closer, running his hand over the door, when a sudden grinding echoed from the shadows. The floor trembled. From the darkness at the far side of the chamber rose a figure, stone at first glance, but moving with terrible precision. It was a guardian statue, carved in the likeness of a warrior, its shield emblazoned with a lion, its eyes two black jewels that glowed with an inner fire. Eleanor gasped. It moved. With a sound like steel against stone, the guardian lifted its spear. The air grew cold, and an unseen force pressed upon them, as though the weight of centuries judged their presence. Marcus instinctively drew his revolver, but Carroway raised a trembling hand. "No!" The inscription, "It warns us. Violence will doom us." The guardian advanced, each step booming like thunder through the chamber. Eleanor dropped to one knee before the inscription, whispering a prayer she barely remembered, one she had heard in both Greek and Coptic churches. The guardian halted, its jeweled eyes flickering. Slowly, with a sound like stone cracking, it lowered its spear and stepped aside, leaving the path clear. The door groaned open on its own, exhaling a breath of air so ancient it chilled their bones. Beyond lay a passage into darkness, where only the brave, or the foolish, would dare tread. Carroway's voice shook with awe. "The tomb does not guard gold. It guards secrets. And we have only just begun to earn the right to see them." Beyond the guardian's threshold, the passage narrowed, twisting like a serpent into the depths of the earth. Each step reverberated as if the tomb itself were alive, listening, judging. The walls were etched with faint depictions of lions, Alexander's eternal emblem, each one frozen in mid-roar, their mouths open as if whispering warnings. Eleanor shivered, feeling the weight of countless eyes upon them. At the corridor's heart, they found a massive stone seal embedded in the floor, carved with the same lion motif. Its surface was slick with age, yet the etching seemed to glint with an unnatural light. Beneath the lion's paw lay an inscription, worn but decipherable in Greek, "He who disturbs the king without honor shall carry his burden to eternity." Carroway knelt to examine it, tracing the letters with a trembling finger. "A warning," he whispered. "It's not gold, it's not treasure, it's a curse." Marcus frowned, uneasy. "So what does that mean for us? Spirits? Traps?" Before Eleanor could answer, a tremor shook the passage. Dust cascaded from the walls. A low, growling sound emerged from deep below, reverberating through stone and bone alike. The shadows in the corridor twisted and danced, forming shapes that seemed alive, snarling with mouths that did not exist. Eleanor's voice was almost lost in the roar. The seal, it's not just symbolic. It protects something alive." Carroway's eyes narrowed. "The tomb itself," he said grimly, "is part of the curse. Every step forward is a step into its trial. The lion does not guard gold, it guards death, and knowledge intertwined." Marcus swallowed hard, gripping his revolver like a talisman. But even he could feel that bullets or steel were useless here. This was a tomb that demanded respect, cunning, and courage. Those who sought Alexander's resting place could either prove themselves worthy or vanish like so many before them, absorbed into the shadows of legend. With a shared glance, the three adventurers stepped forward, the lion seal grinding open beneath their feet, revealing a staircase spiraling deeper into darkness, where history, mystery, and mortal danger awaited. The staircase spiraled downward into a cavern so vast that their torchlight barely touched its edges. As they entered, Eleanor gasped. The chamber was lined with colossal statues, each depicting a figure in battle or in prayer, their eyes inlaid with obsidian and amber, gleaming with an unearthly light. The walls were adorned with murals, frozen moments of Alexander's conquests, armies storming cities, kings kneeling, deserts and mountains rendered in impossible detail. The air was thick with the scent of stone and age, and a low hum vibrated through the chamber, as though the statues themselves were alive. Carroway stepped cautiously, noting the inscriptions at the base of each figure. They were warnings and prayers, records of those who had come before, some offering devotion, others seeking power, and all vanishing into the annals of history. A sudden chill swept through the hall. Shadows twisted unnaturally around the statues, forming ephemeral shapes, warriors in ghostly armor, their eyes glowing faintly in the torchlight. Marcus's hand instinctively went to his revolver, but Eleanor placed a trembling hand on his arm. "They are not hostile, or yet," as she whispered. "They are watchers, or remnants of those who protected this place." Carroway approached a mural that depicted a figure laying Alexander into a golden sarcophagus. Beneath it, a single inscription stood out, in Greek and Egyptian, "Ere the eternal watchers see all. Only the worthy shall follow the lion's path." As they moved deeper, the hum grew louder, resonating with a heartbeat-like rhythm. The explorers could feel it vibrating through their bones. A soft whisper, almost inaudible, threaded through the air, repeating a single name, Alexander. It was not spoken, it was felt, a call across centuries, pulling them onward. The chamber stretched on endlessly, as if the walls themselves were bending space to contain the memory of a conqueror who refused to be forgotten. Every step forward was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, history and legend entwined, daring them to continue while reminding them of the dangers that lurked in the tomb's shadow. Beyond the Hall of Eternal Watchers, the passage narrowed into a twisting maze of stone corridors, each lined with faded frescoes of kings long dead, their faces frozen in expressions of pride, fear, or despair. Carroway's torch cast flickering shadows that danced like phantoms, making the walls seem alive, whispering secrets in languages lost to time. Eleanor traced her fingers along the carvings. These kings, they tried to follow Alexander, as she murmured. And each failed. Marcus's eyes scanned the labyrinth. "Then why are we still here?" A sudden sound answered him, a click beneath their feet. Carroway froze. A stone slab shifted subtly, revealing a hidden pit beneath. Dust and dry leaves spiraled down as a faint whisper warned of danger. One step wrong, and eternity awaits. The labyrinth was not merely a passage. It was a trial, designed to test courage, intelligence, and reverence. Pressure plates, shifting walls, and hidden spikes awaited the unwary. The explorers moved carefully, deciphering patterns in the tiles, noting faint glyphs that hinted at safe passages. Every wrong turn brought them closer to deadly traps, and the echoes of past explorers, some human, some spectral, seemed to follow their every move. Hours passed, and the corridors twisted ever deeper. The air grew thick with the scent of stone and something metallic, like blood long dried. Eleanor's torchlight caught on a series of frescoes depicting Alexander himself, leading armies not just across lands, but into the underworld. The message was clear: those who sought him must navigate death itself to find his resting place. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the labyrinth opened into a circular chamber. At its center, a massive lion emblem was carved into the floor, surrounded by runes that pulsed faintly with golden light. It was both a warning and an invitation. The trial of the labyrinth had been survived, but the tomb's true heart awaited beyond. And with it, the mysteries and dangers that had swallowed countless seekers before. The lion-emblazoned chamber opened into a vast hall, its ceilings lost in shadow. The walls were etched with golden inlays that shimmered faintly in the explorer's torchlight, depicting warriors and priests frozen in acts of devotion and battle. As they stepped forward, the temperature dropped sharply, and a low murmur, like the chorus of 1,000 voices, filled the air. Eleanor shivered. "Do you hear that?" They, or their whispering. The sound coalesced into faint, unintelligible words that echoed as if the chamber itself were alive. Faint silhouettes moved along the walls, figures in ancient armor, their faces obscured, eyes glowing with spectral light. The explorers felt a pressing weight of presence, a history of devotion, betrayal, and vigilance. These were the souls of the tomb's eternal guardians, bound to protect Alexander even after death. Carroway stepped cautiously forward, tracing his finger along the murals. He saw scenes of past seekers, scholars, soldiers, thieves, and kings, all drawn into the tomb's mysterious embrace. Some were pleading, some fighting, all trapped between time and eternity. He realized the whispers were not malevolent. They were warnings, guides, and riddles, a test of perception and resolve. A sudden movement startled Marcus. A figure materialized fully, a spectral guard, spear in hand, its eyes fixed on them with judgment. The whispers coalesced into a single message: ere to claim what is lost, one must see without greed, step without haste, and honor the king beyond death. Eleanor's voice trembled. "It's a trial, but not of strength. It's of spirit." The explorers navigated the chamber with care, listening to the whispers, following the silent cues of the spectral guardians. Each soul that appeared seemed to bend time, revealing glimpses of the tomb's intricate design and of the dangers yet to come. As they reached the far end of the chamber, a doorway carved with Alexander's likeness appeared, glowing faintly with an unearthly blue light. Beyond it lay a descending staircase, leading into the tomb's innermost sanctum, a place of secrets, power, and the very heart of the curse that had haunted the Conqueror for centuries. The staircase beyond the glowing doorway spiraled downward into a darkness so complete it seemed to swallow torchlight. The air grew thick, sweet with the scent of incense long burned and stone sealed for centuries. Each step reverberated with a low hum, as if the tomb itself were breathing, welcoming them, or testing them. Carroway led cautiously, tracing the walls adorned with depictions of Alexander in life and death, conquering kings, forging alliances, and staring into realms beyond mortal understanding. Each fresco seemed to shift under their gaze, the colors deepening, the faces becoming lifelike, whispering warnings in a language older than any scholar could decipher. Eleanor's torch flickered as a cold wind whispered through the passage. She shivered. "It feels alive," as she murmured. "As if it knows we're here." Marcus gripped his revolver tighter, though he sensed weapons meant nothing in this place. Shadows danced unnaturally on the walls, forming shapes of soldiers, lions, and unfamiliar beasts. The staircase ended in a vast chamber, circular, with a vaulted ceiling carved into the likeness of a sunburst. At its center stood a golden sarcophagus, polished to an impossible brilliance, flanked by towering statues of Alexander himself, immortalized in battle stance. A hush fell over the explorers. The chamber seemed to pulse with life. The sarcophagus glimmered, casting reflections that danced like flames across the walls. Then came the whispers, clearer now, almost forming words. Only the worthy may touch the king. Only the pure of heart may bear his secret. Carroway approached the sarcophagus, heart pounding, hands trembling. Eleanor and Marcus flanked him, senses heightened, aware that any misstep could awaken the curse that had claimed countless seekers before them. The air thrummed with a power neither natural nor entirely spiritual, and a chill ran down their spines. In that instant, they realized the tomb was not just a resting place. It was a test, a crucible of mind, courage, and reverence. Alexander's heart may have ceased beating centuries ago, but his spirit, his trials, and his secrets were very much alive. The true challenge awaited, and to claim it would require everything they had: strength, wisdom, and unflinching resolve. The golden sarcophagus shimmered in the torchlight, as if it held a fire within, alive and aware. Carroway stepped closer, hand outstretched, but the whispers intensified, weaving through the chamber like a chorus of unseen voices. The shadows of the statues flickered, twisting into shapes that were almost human, almost beast. Eleanor gripped his arm. "It's responding to us," as she whispered. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Or warning us. One wrong move." Before anyone could speak further, the sarcophagus lid began to tremble. A low vibration spread through the chamber, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Dust rose, spiraling in golden eddies. The engraved lions along the walls seemed to roar silently, eyes glinting with an eerie light. The air thickened, pressing against their chests, filling their minds with visions not entirely of this world. Carroway staggered as he saw fleeting images: Alexander on the battlefield, armies clashing, gods observing from the sky. Later, his body carried through lands unknown, buried and hidden by hands both human and divine. And then, terrifyingly, he saw himself, and Eleanor, and Marcus, standing before the sarcophagus, shadows stretching long, merging with figures from the past. Eleanor fell to her knees. "It's showing us or our fate." A sudden surge of wind blew through the chamber, extinguishing torches. Darkness enveloped them. Then, from the golden glow of the sarcophagus, a figure rose, not fully solid, not fully spectral. Alexander himself, immortal in visage, eyes gleaming like twin suns, his presence filling the chamber with a weight that was both awe-inspiring and suffocating. The whispers became words. Who dares awaken me? Who dares claim what is mine?" Marcus raised his revolver, but the figure lifted a hand, and an invisible force pinned him to the ground. Carroway's voice trembled. "We mean no harm. We seek only knowledge." The spectral king's gaze swept over them. Knowledge comes with a price. Courage comes with a trial. Only those who endure shall leave with the truth. And with that, the sarcophagus lid lifted fully, revealing not just a body, but a vision of a conqueror whose power and ambition transcended death itself. The chamber became alive with history, magic, and menace, ushering the explorers into the tomb's deepest and most dangerous secrets. The chamber seemed to breathe, a living entity wrapped around the explorers, as Alexander's spectral form hovered above the golden sarcophagus. The air pulsed with unseen energy, vibrating through bone and blood, as if measuring their worth. Carroway stepped forward, heart pounding, feeling the weight of centuries pressing down. Every conqueror left their mark, the spirit intoned, but only those who respect what lies beneath may proceed. Are you worthy of what you seek? Before they could answer, the floor shifted beneath them. Stone panels rotated and walls slid silently, revealing 3 separate parts, each marked with symbols of conquest, wisdom, or sacrifice. A gust of wind carried faint whispers. Choose wisely, for each path tests more than body, it tests heart and mind. Eleanor studied the inscriptions. One path leads through fire, another through shadows, the last through trials of the mind. We must choose carefully. Marcus's jaw tightened. I faced death on battlefields, storms at sea. What's one more trial? The first path erupted in flame, yet the fire was cold to the touch, crackling with spectral energy that illuminated visions of Alexander's greatest battles. The second path was cloaked in darkness, every sound magnified, every step echoing with whispers of lost souls who failed before them. The third was lined with mirrors, each reflecting not their faces, but choices they had made, decisions that weighed upon their souls. Carroway swallowed, understanding that this was more than a test of courage. It was a reckoning with the essence of a conqueror, and of themselves. Only by navigating these trials, balancing bravery, wisdom, and humility, could they hope to uncover the tomb's deepest secret. As they took their first steps toward the paths, the spectral Alexander's voice followed them. The tomb watches, it judges, and it remembers. Fail, and you become part of its eternal story. The chamber fell silent, the echoes of destiny settling around them. Their journey had only begun, and already, the line between legend and reality blurred, threatening to consume them in the legacy of a king who had conquered the known world, and beyond. Carroway, Eleanor, and Marcus hesitated before the path cloaked in darkness. A chill rose from its depths, carrying with it the scent of ancient decay and a whisper of lives lost to time. The walls seemed to close in, shadows stretching and twisting like living things, moving with silent intent. The torchlight flickered, though no wind disturbed it, as if the path itself resisted illumination. Marcus gritted his teeth. I've walked through worse on battlefields. Shadows don't scare me. Eleanor's hand shook as she traced the glyphs along the walls, inscriptions warning of unseen watchers. These shadows, they're not just absence of light. They are guardians, spirits bound to test our resolve, to measure fear and intent. As they moved deeper, the air thickened. Every step echoed strangely, sometimes mimicking their movements with ghostly delay, other times answering with whispers from the past, a turn back, or join us. The explorers felt invisible hands brush against their shoulders, heard footsteps that vanished as soon as they turned. A low growl rolled through the passage, reverberating in stone. Shadows coalesced into shapes, spectral soldiers and animals, frozen mid-motion, eyes glowing like embers. Eleanor gasped as she realized the phantoms mimicked the fallen, the failed seekers whose greed or pride had doomed them. Carroway remembered the inscriptions in the previous chamber. Only those who respect the king and themselves may proceed. He whispered a vow, stepping forward deliberately, treating each shadow not as a threat, but as a test. Marcus and Eleanor followed, their movements careful, respectful, unwavering. The shadows seemed to watch, then shifted aside, revealing a stairway descending further into darkness. The echoing whispers faded to silence, leaving only the sound of their breathing and the pulse of the tomb itself. They had survived the path of shadows, but the deeper they went, the more the tomb demanded of them. At the bottom of the stairs, a faint golden glow beckoned, promising both revelation and peril. The true heart of Alexander's tomb awaited, where knowledge, power, and danger intertwined like an unbreakable chain. The golden glow led them to a chamber unlike any they had seen before. The walls, floor, and ceiling were entirely mirrored, reflecting their torches into infinite corridors of light and shadow. Every movement they made multiplied 100-fold, until it seemed they were surrounded by endless versions of themselves, some trembling, some courageous, some faltering. Carroway's pulse quickened. It's a labyrinth of reflections, but not just of the body. It's of the soul. Eleanor stepped forward cautiously, her own reflection splitting into dozens of images, each whispering fragments of doubt and fear. She recognized choices she had made, moments of hesitation, and instances of pride and regret. The chamber forced them to confront not enemies outside, but enemies within, insecurities, past mistakes, and hidden desires. Marcus's reflection smiled back mockingly, carrying the weight of his battles and lost comrades. His jaw tightened as he realized the mirrors were probing him, measuring the strength of his heart and the truth of his intent. Carroway moved deliberately, whispering encouragement. We must see ourselves clearly, without fear, without arrogance. Only then will the tomb allow us to pass. As they advanced, the mirrors seemed to react, some darkening to obscure illusions, others brightening to illuminate truths. Shadows of past seekers appeared, frozen in moments of failure or despair, warning them silently. The whispers grew louder, yet clearer. A truth guides the worthy. Pride blinds the fool. Step by careful step, they navigated the chamber, facing their reflections and their pasts. Each confrontation was exhausting, each truth revealed cutting like a blade, but they pressed onward. At last, a passage opened ahead, revealing the final stairway descending into a golden chamber bathed in light so intense it was almost painful to behold. The tomb's heart awaited. Alexander's secrets, his legacy, and the culmination of centuries of trials lay just beyond the next threshold. A final stairway opened into a chamber so vast it seemed to stretch beyond sight, bathed in a golden light that did not flicker or fade. At its center rested the golden sarcophagus once glimpsed from above, now fully revealed, gleaming as if newly forged. Its intricate carvings told the story of Alexander's life, battles won, cities conquered, allies made and lost, and the indomitable spirit of a man who sought to unite the known world. The air was alive with whispers, now coherent, a chorus of voices from centuries past, praising, warning, and challenging all who dared enter. Eleanor stepped forward, her torch reflecting off the gilded walls, revealing hidden inscriptions. He who seeks the king must honor the path, respect the power, and endure the trials of both body and soul. Carroway approached, feeling the weight of history pressing down upon him. His hand hovered over the sarcophagus lid, trembling with reverence and fear. Marcus stood guard, yet even he sensed that weapons were meaningless here. The true danger was unseen, spiritual, eternal. As Carroway lifted the lid, the air shimmered. A spectral form emerged, Alexander himself, regal and commanding, yet tempered with the wisdom of centuries. His eyes, glowing like molten gold, swept across the explorers, assessing them not merely for courage, but for honor, insight, and humility. "You have endured," Alexander's voice resonated, deep and commanding. "Many sought me, all failed. You, have proven your worth." The chamber pulsed, revealing secrets hidden for millennia, scrolls detailing campaigns lost to history, treasures imbued with symbolic power, and inscriptions hinting at knowledge far beyond the mortal realm. But the greatest revelation was the understanding Alexander imparted, not of gold or glory, but of vision, strategy, and the human heart's capacity to endure, to lead, and to unite. Eleanor whispered, awestruck, "It's not treasure, it's wisdom." Alexander's spirit slowly faded, leaving the explorers alone in the golden light, the tomb silent but eternal. They had found what so many before them sought, yet only those who respected the trials had truly received the gift. The tomb would remain, guarding its secrets, testing future seekers, and reminding the world that some legacies are eternal, not through conquest, but through the courage and virtue of those who dare to seek them.